Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Custom. So today we're going to continue on with our series of taking a Sideshow Collectibles Poison Ivy statue and converting it into Jessie from Pokemon. Now, the whole idea behind this series is just, messing around with superhero statues, but taking anime characters and converting them. So it's almost like a cosplay type look, but it's also kind of like a pin-up too in a way. So we'll see how this kind of works out. I'm having a lot of fun with it. In the last couple of videos, basically we took the statue and we stripped it down. We rebuilt the figure. The one video we built the whole boots and we went with that. And the last video we worked out the skirt. So now we're going to start working on the shirt and jacket. It's going to be a little bit tricky. It might not all be done in this video because it's got a lot of work to do, because it's not as simple as just sculpting a jacket, putting the arms on, and done. We have to get the arms back on. We have to get the head on. I have to design it in a way where I'll be able to get paint work there, because the way the factory is done is the two arm pieces were glued in, and then this was glued in like that afterwards. So if you guys don't know, most statues are casted up in pieces, and the factory puts them together, because you can't cast this whole thing in one item, because all the mold and paint work and all that, everything is always casted up in pieces. So with me doing a lot of my customs, it's very hard to actually design it in pieces and paint and then put it together. Sometimes, the way I kind of sculpt this stuff, I have to put it all together in one piece and then paint it, and it gets very tedious work with masking, but it can be done. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the shirt. Now, I want to show a little bit of under boob on her, nothing too crazy, so I made two marks there where I'm going to put the shirt. So the idea is the shirt's going to be tied up here, around there, and then the jacket will go over it. So we're going to focus on the shirt. Once that's kind of where we want it, we'll start working on the jacket with the R and how the flaps come over the sides, and then the back. And then I have to start, after that, start figuring out how I'm going to do the arms with the jacket and the hair, because I want to keep the hair as is. I kind of like this look with her. It just kind of hairs down. It's kind of like more a little bit realistic. And but we'll have to kind of tweak it out so this way the jacket and everything works. I would love to be able to paint the head separate and then glue the head on afterwards, but that's not going to work out. If you're going to do it like as a full-blown production piece, and you're going to be making like 1,000 of these to sell on a website or something, then yeah, it's best to make everything keyed out in pieces so the factory can do it. But one of a kind, you can kind of get away with it. So the best way to do the shirt, like I did with the skirt in the last video, is mix up Magic Sculpt. And I like Magic Sculpt because it's a little bit more durable than Aves. It also kind of cures a little bit faster. Like, you could do this with Aves, but you gotta let the Aves really cure for like maybe an hour and a half before you wrap it around the item. With Magic Sculpt, I mixed this about 15 minutes ago. I probably in another 15 minutes it'll probably be workable where I can actually wrap it around the chest and get that bottom part of the shirt at least there. And then the next day I can sand it down and start working out Aves and do all the wrinkles and everything. So Magic Sculpt is pretty easy. I use it in a lot of my videos. You mix A and B together in equal amounts. Once you mix it up really well, you just use some water. After that, you start sculpting it, or you can roll it out like I did on wax paper with baby powder in the garage, and I cut off a piece. Now I might have to kind of cut this piece down a little bit more. It's a little too thick, so I just got to maybe cut it down just a little bit more, maybe in half or so, just so I could wrap it around the bottom of the chest. And then basically you just use some water. You kind of like just get a little bit tacky, lift it around the item, and it should work. Now, the way she is on this base, if you look, this is just a base I just made just for painting and sculpting. She leans back a little bit, so the head's not attached yet. What I'll do is I'll have her laying down on her back, and what I'll do is I'll wrap the Magic Sculpt around like this. Now, if I let this sit and let it cure, what will happen is that Magic Sculpt will probably get to the point where it'll start curving here, and I don't want that to happen. So what I do is once I wrap it around her, I'll put her back on the base, and then what I'll do is over on the other side, I'll put something under the base so she's straight up in the air, because right now she's leaning backwards. So as long as she's straight up like this and the Magic Sculpt is there, it won't curve in. It'll be nice and taut, basically, and that's what we're going for. So it's a little bit tricky, but it'll work out. Basically I'll give this about 15 more minutes or so, and then what I'll do is I'll use some water and we'll wrap it around it. And then after that, like I said, tomorrow I can shape it down a little bit, and then we can start using Aves and do all the detailing work. And then basically the same thing's going to be happening with the jacket. Basically we roll out Magic Sculpt, we cut it, we wrap it around her part, and then we start building the jacket as the flaps come off. So that's going to be a little bit trickier because I need to make it a little bit thicker, because if you're not careful you can actually break those pieces off. So we'll see how that works out. Alright, so I put it around and that's exactly where I want it. It is very thick piece, but that's okay. It needs to be because like you can break this stuff. But what'll happen is when I go sand this down, I'll shape this down and I'll shape this down as well. And also kind of sand this here, and then this will be tweaked in. So this might need to be pushed in just a little bit. I'm going to kind of play with it now off camera because it's a little bit easier to see. But this will work out pretty well because you want to create the tautness in here, wrinkles, and a little bit of wrinkles around there. So what'll happen is I'll put a bunch of A's in here, and it'll be easier to sculpt in here than to try to fill this in flat and then Dremel it out. So it's better to have there. So underneath a little bit might get caked up a bit down line, but that's okay. It's just plus to get paint under there is kind of difficult. But I think the way I'm looking at it right now, it should work out pretty well. Okay, so all I did right now is just did some quick rough wrinkles sculpts. It's going to get taken down tomorrow when I sand it down, but this is just giving me an idea of kind of like playing with it. Do I really want it to look like this? Do I want it to be more of just like a cutoff shirt that's just stretched? I'm not really sure how I want it to look yet. So tomorrow I'll sand this down, I'll get a better feel for how I want this to look, and then I could go back in there and do some more wrinkles, or I can make it look like the shirt is really wrinkled up and it's kind of being pushed up. That it actually, if it was to be pulled down, it would come to here, or maybe I want it to be more of a cutoff. I'm not really sure yet. I'll see what it looks like tomorrow, because once I add the jacket onto this, because the jacket is right about there, and then it covers over here, you're not going to really see all this anyway. You're only going to see the front of it, so it'll give me a better idea tomorrow. So when we come back and I decide, this should be all sanded down, primed up again, and then we'll have a better idea of where I want to go with it. Alright, so I went in the garage, I sanded all this down. I didn't like any of those wrinkles. It really wasn't working to where I wanted it. I was also doing some tests too with some either paper towels or some foam paper. So if I have the jacket coming over like this anyways, you're never really going to see anything over here much. So any wrinkles around there, it's not much. So if the jacket's coming sort of like this, in a sense, it's going to come up and around like that. That's kind of where we're going to be seeing the wrinkles mostly anyway, or if it's going to be around here. So I just worked out the wrinkles in the middle. All I did was I used my pencil and I drew a line. I just drew a line like this and I drew a line like that. And I used the Dremel tool and I dremeled in there. And then I sanded it all down. And right now it's kind of not perfect. So all I'm going to use is my, Tamiya putty. And just kind of go in the grooves like that. And this is just going to get sanded down again because I don't want these being super, sharp wrinkles. Just kind of like, I was looking online at some, tight shirts, and just looked like, I looked under boob shirts and stuff like that, and basically it gave me, pictures where I can see it. So by filling this in with the putty, I'm kind of filling in the little areas that I might have dremeled in too much. And what I'll do is I'll do another thing of putty after I sand this down. So I'll let this dry overnight because I'm closing up shop anyway. And just let this dry for the night. And then what I'll do is tomorrow I'll come back and I'll use my sandpaper. I got medium 3M sandpaper. And what I'll do is I'll just sand that down a little bit and I'll look at it in different light directions, hit it with some primer. And if I think I need to do just another little, putty work, I'll do some more putty work, and it should work out where it looks like it's a nice tight shirt and it's got some kind of wrinkles to it. So the idea is we're going to have it as a short shirt instead of it kind of like, I thought about maybe it was like a lifted up shirt, but I really don't like that idea. I like the idea of it's just like a really tight shirt and that's as high as it goes anyway. So I'll see how it works tomorrow with another layer, and then after that we could probably start planning out the jacket. Just got out of the garage and I rolled up some Magic Sculpt with some baby powder, cut it, and I'm going to start applying the shirt now on the top of up here. Now I thought about adding a zipper, but then I said it might not work because the zipper doesn't really want to kind of go this far out. It kind of really only wants to stay in the front. So I don't know, maybe I can add the zipper later, or what I'm thinking about doing is maybe like make it a button-down shirt. So I'll come up with some kind of idea. But for right now, I just want to get the jacket kind of draped over the side. So once I get this draped over and it's there, I'm going to have to be very careful with her. It's going to be a lot more delicate now because, you know, just like the skirt, if I accidentally grab it somewhere, I might snap and break the pieces because it's going to kind of drape down. I don't want it kind of like curving, you know, around the body just to make it safe. I really want it to go down. And I might have to put some Aves or Magic Sculpt underneath of it just to make it a little bit more secure. So I'm going to let this Magic Sculpt kind of set for another like 15-20 minutes. And then what I'll do is I'll you know, kind of hit it with some water, and hopefully I can kind of drape it around here and just get a basic shape for now. And then tomorrow I could kind of like shave it down if I need to and clean it up. I got some good timing actually right now. The base actually came in about a week or so ago. It actually came out great. Metajohn did a great job of etching. So this is all etched out perfect. This is way better than what I could have done. He didn't really etch too deep because I told him you didn't have to go too deep on this one, just enough to give me a, you know, a pattern. He lined it up really great. So I put her onto the base now because I want to make sure that she is like, you know, flush, going straight and leveled. So this way the jacket kind of sits to where I want it, because if I leave her at an angle on top of that generic base that I made with out of the block of wood, these flaps might kind of bend a way that I don't want them to be. But right now they're exactly kind of where I want it. So what I did is I kind of pushed, you know, the Magic Sculpt down a little because it was way up too high. I need place, you know, room for the R. I did put a little bit of line here just to give me a, you know, a guide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cure out for the night. Tomorrow what I'll come back is I'll sand and fine tune this down. Now I did do a little bit of wrinkles over here. I like the way these wrinkles came out. So what I'll try to do is mimic these a little bit because I didn't throw enough Magic Sculpt here. So that's going to probably all change, and I'm not really worried about that really for now. It's just kind of like a guide. I did put this Magic Sculpt on really thick because if I did it really thin and then I go to sand it down, it'll cause more issues. So what I'll do is tomorrow is I'll sand all this down and I'll kind of fine tune a little bit more, and it should work out. It'll be thin at the, you know, edging here, but it'll stay thick underneath and around there. Otherwise, it might snap. But I like the way it's coming out. It's looking really good. Now, for the jacket in the back, I kind of just wrapped it around her back. I think that works out fine. It's not really a big deal because this is probably going to get sanded down and chopped up. So when I put the hair on, you know, the head and the hair, I'm going to have the hair kind of soak around the back and kind of touch it because it's just easier to paint that way. I know, you know, the factory and the original Poison Ivy, you can actually see through the hair going this way. But, you know, it's a custom, so I kind of gotta, you know, fudge it a little bit. So we'll see how that works out. But other than that, I like the way it's coming out. It's really good. So we'll let this set up for the night. I'll fine tune it tomorrow, and then we'll come back and start detailing. So I had a chance today to shape this up. So I sanded all this down. I shaped up here. I took it down a lot. It's a little bit thick underneath here, but I need it to be. This is a little bit thin, but I don't want to go any thinner than what it is. But I can see, you know, we shaped everything up. So we have the seam line coming up here. So the next step is I'm going to work out the collar. I'm going to chisel out some of the neck over here and over here. And I'm going to work out some of this collar. I want the collar to go up high like where it is. So I want it to be like, you know, it's a really high collar on here. I don't want it to go too low and see half skin and then half collar. So I like the idea of it going up there. So I got to kind of tweak it a bit. But after that's done, you know, and I put the R symbol on here and everything, and I attach the head, the hair is going to come around here. So I'm going to have some fun with the hair. You know, I'm going to kind of tweak it a bit. That's why I chiseled out the hair a little bit more, and I got to work out the arms and all that stuff. But as far as like the rest of this video, I think we're just going to focus on the collar, and we're going to focus getting the R symbol going. And then after that, I should have everything ready where I can attach the head and arms, and I can start tweaking out the wrinkles here, cleaning up the arms and all the hair pieces. Now, on the back of her, we do have a gap back here and everything, as you can kind of see. So I think what's going to happen is I'll fill out a lot of the gap there, but we're going to leave the back here so you can always put your pinky through this. So this way I'll have to be able to spray and get underneath there. So I have to kind of tweak a lot of that out. I also chisel out all the leaves off the hair. So while this head isn't really attached yet, I'll be able to come in here and fix up this hair, prime it up, and I can make sure all this is kind of cleaned up and everything. So it'll be easier to do it off the statue. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to go in the garage now. I'm going to chisel out the neck a little bit, get that cleaned up, and then what we'll do is we'll come back and we're going to finish up the main part of the jacket. So we're going to probably work on the collar, get the R symbol on, and probably add like buttons or something. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll change it up and do something different. Not really sure yet. And then that's where we'll pretty much finish out this video. And then when we come back with the next video, we'll you know, focus on a lot of the arms, jacket, and everything else. So I went into my computer and I have these two programs. They're Affinity programs. It's like Affinity Design, Affinity Pro. They're sort of like Photoshop and Illustrator, but they're sort of like cheaper programs. They're in like the Apple store, so they're only like $50 a piece. I picked them up like a few years back. So, you know, whenever I need to do something simple like this, I just go into those. But if I need to do something a little bit more complex, I go back and boot up my old Mac Pro for the old Adobe programs for Illustrator and Photoshop. But for this stuff, it's really easy. So if you guys are looking for a cheap program or something just to kind of like work out stuff, the Affinity programs are pretty cool. So what I did is I cut them out in different sizes, and I sort of, you know, added them to the shirt so I could get a better idea where I'm going to put the R. Now at one point I had the R up here, but then I realized that when I put the head on and if I sculpt any hair, it's going to go over the R, and I'm like, it's not going to look right. So I've been toying with it kind of being split here. It's a little bit tricky. It's got to be a little bit more stylized than what I wanted it to be, but that's fine. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to keep drawing this with my blue pencil, and I use my 3M sandpaper to kind of erase it away. As you can see right there, I kind of nicked a bunch of the resin there, but I'll put some putty in there, fill that in. And just kind of working out where the R will be. So I think it's getting there. I think I like where it's at. What I'm going to do is, when I'm ready to work on the R, what I'll do is roll out A's, and I'll cut out strips about this thick. And then what I could do is I can lay a strip down here, and it'll go a little bit more fluid, you know, it'll look a little bit better. And then what I'll do is I'll put another strip going around this way, and I'll put another strip there. So I might do these strips in like 3 sections. I might do this one first and let it sit for like a day, and then later that night I could kind of do the curved one, and then the next day what I could do is I could do one there and I could do one there and then sand it down. If I tried to do it all in one shot, probably what would happen is like the corner parts would get all funky and messed up. So I'll kind of show you how I'm going to do it. It's like, I always find it's easier to do stuff in sections, let it dry for the night, cure up for the day or night, and then work on the next section, and it kind of makes life easy. Now, I did toy with the zipper, and I just didn't like the way the zipper would look, and then for me trying to get the zipper on here and the stay and everything, it would probably break off. So I decided I'm going to do a sculpt first over here, sort of something a little bit thicker, not too thick, but just a little bit thicker. And then what will happen is maybe I'll put like dots in there, and then over here what I'll do is like buttons or something. So this might kind of go over this side just a little bit. You'll see when I kind of do it. So it'll look like it's kind of like a button piece and stuff. So the buttons won't be too big, they'll be very small, or they might be like snaps, or maybe, you know, like not like buttons where you kind of throw them. It might be like snaps or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm going to keep kind of toying with this R to get it where I want it to be. I might have to erase it a few more times. And then once I'm happy with that, we'll do this side first, all right? And then what we'll do is like, okay, we'll put the R on and everything, and then I might start working out the buttons or something. So, I don't know, it's kind of going here and there. So, I think what I'll do is I'll kind of work this out where it comes up here, and I'm going to have to work out the collar. I am looking at some of the pictures that I have, and some of these collars are pretty funky, and other ones are not. So, I think I might have a little fun with the collar. I might try something a little bit different just to make it pop out a little bit more. So, we'll see how that works out. Okay, so I think this is where we're going to close out this video. I'm really liking the where she's looking. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I like the style of the jacket and everything. Now what happened was when I first started sculpting the jacket, it really didn't work out too well. So I did one seam coming down over here, and then I added like buttons and stuff, and it looked really messy, and it would take away from the R. So I scrapped that idea. Then after that, I tried something else, like a more stylized thing, and it did not look great. I just scrapped that right away. So I decided, let me go online, let me see if I can find some more realistic type artwork of her. Really not that much out there. Most of it's almost cartoony or animated. And then what I did is I looked up cosplays, outfits, and a lot of girls, what they did is they sort of kept it like the comics or like the anime, where it's sort of split here, but it's all flat over in here. So it looks like they have it zipped up in the back mostly. I really didn't want to go that route with it. I like the idea it's kind of like zipped in the front or attached in the front somehow. So I went into like, 80s and 90s type of like cut off jackets and stuff, or even, whatever I could find. And I came across a couple different styles. So what I did is I pretty much just did, the split, here and here. Now I would have loved to put the zipper on there, and I did do an experiment, one of the larger zippers, where I just took one chunk of Aves I had one night, or a Magic Scope, I forgot what it was, and I just laid it over a piece of wood. And then the next day I sort of tried to attach the zipper to it, and every time I tried to do it, it just looked really messy, or it would break, because there's really no grab on it, because it's more like fabric with like bendable metal than actual like some like plastic you can really attach. So, and it would have been too thick, and it would have been a nightmare. Zippers work great for like, attaching it into like the areas on the back, which work out, but trying to do something like that that's going to like stick out the side, I could probably do it and it would look good, but if somebody handled it or I had it, it would just probably break right off. So it's just not going to work. But other than that, I put the R in there. It works out great. I'm going to just score some lines in there, so when I paint the red R, I'll know where to put, extend it, so it's not going to be split. It'll still kind of go around the area. And other than that, I'm pretty happy where it's at. So the next step is kind of like, I'm at that thing where I got to really think about how this is going to work, because I know her shoulder pads are kind of like pointy. So I got to figure out, do I chop up the hair over here? Do I chop up the hair over here? Do I sculpt these shoulder pads a little bit more pointy? See how that works before I attach the head. I also might add a little bit of maybe like a 2-button thing up here for the collar, so it looks like she, tightens the collar and she kind of attaches this going down. I also need to sculpt the hair. So I got to kind of plan this out a little bit more, how I'm going to do this. Plus, I want to clean up the body a little bit more too. There's a bunch of stuff up in here I need to clean. But other than that, it's looking really good. So now on the back of her hair, what I did is, you can see a lot of those areas that had leaves that I chopped out, I rebuilt those hair areas. And then over in here, her hands were sculpted with leaves, and they're very like, they got all that leaf texture. So instead of sitting there trying sandpaper to sand it down, I just really used some fresh soft Aves, and I just kind of blended out the hand. So I'll hit this with some sandpaper, and it'll be ready to go. I've done it plenty times on a couple of the other Ivy customs I did. So when we come back, the hair in the back and everything should be all smoothed out and ready to go, and I should have a better idea of how I'm going to get this attached. So the next video is definitely going to be a heavy one, where we kind of fill in and resculpt all this stuff and get it nice and clean, get it ready for paint. And then after that, the rest of the series after the next video should just be about painting. So all in all, I'm happy with it. It's looking pretty good. I think it should turn out pretty cool. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back with the next part pretty soon.